What's going on, everyone? Welcome to episode 12 of Enter the Javelin, Mixer's first Anthem community web show. We gather here once a week to discuss the latest Anthem news, updates, hot takes on the newest IP that BioWare is bringing to us, and it's due out in February of 2019. For those of you joining us for the first time today, my name is Lupo, and I'll be your host for the evening. Guys, appreciate all the hosts today out there on the Mixer stream. Joining us this week is Dantier from Low Mana Gaming on YouTube. Dantier is focused a lot on a lot of his content around Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm lore, so it's no surprise a lore hound would be interested in Anthem, of course, like a BioWare game. Recently, Dantier has been compiling the weekly Anthem news in a recap called This Week in Anthem, and you can check it out at youtube.com/lowmanagaming. Dantier, how are you, man? It's really good to have you on.
Yeah, I'm good. Thank you for having me. Yeah,
I really appreciate it. So, let's just jump right into it, man. Like, so what drove you as a content creator? Like, what made you like just get out there and start doing videos and stuff like that?
So I've been making videos for over 5 years now. I'm pushing 5 years pretty soon. So I started way back with Hearthstone. Probably is when I really started doing it. Because I was in the closed beta for that.
Yeah.
So way back when, back in the old school days of YouTube, when it was kind of sad to see him go, but when it was all Total Biscuit and Jim Sterling's and all this kind of stuff.
the Wild West of YouTube.
Yeah. So those were kind of like my main inspirations.
Yeah.
It was like critique YouTubers, and then going into doing guide stuff, because card games especially were a really big part of my childhood. So Hearthstone was a really good like starting block for me. So I started off doing just guides for those, especially with people who couldn't get into the beta back then.
Yeah.
So pretty good. And then I kind of have gone through the most Blizzard games at this point. And then I went on to Heroes of the Storm, which I now work for in the esports division. Well, not Blizzard themselves, but I work in the esports part of that. And then onto Overwatch, which is probably anyone who's seen my content, that's probably what you've seen.
Yeah, like it's like pretty incredible to see some of the stuff. I was like, this is like way before the game launched. I was like, you had your hands on that lore like 6 months before the game launched, so that's pretty incredible. And like the traction that you had on those videos is just like absolutely insane. Like you were literally doing content that no one was putting out at the time, and it's awesome. Like I think for a game that's like so fundamentally simplistic, the lore is just over the top and like extremely engaging. So even if you don't want to play the game, you're somewhat interested in the lore itself.
Yeah, and it's not done as well as Dark Souls, but a lot of the like lore and the story is hidden in the game. None of it's told to you, which is probably why those got quite a lot of traction. Because especially in the earlier days, there was no cinematics or any of that. You had to go through forums and find like the short stories and the backstory from BlizzCon and stuff, all the stuff that Chris Metzen has told. Because if you go back through a lot of the characters, a lot of them are actually ideas he's had since he was, I don't know, like 20. So these are
it's crazy to think that
he had when he was a kid, kind of thing.
It's like very much like the way Bungie was foreshadowing Destiny, like in Halo, Halo 1, Halo 2, like that's crazy stuff to think about, that they have that much foresight and people were that excited about the idea of these particular products that early in advance, that they were pushing those ideas early.
Yeah, and it kind of exploded for quite a while. So because I think I made the very first lore videos for Overwatch, like way back. Because it was so far before anything came out. So we kind of created the lore scene for that.
Yeah.
Initially, which led to us doing stuff for other channels and that kind of stuff, which is where a lot of the growth came from when we did those.
Yeah, I mean, I really enjoyed it. Like, I played Overwatch for like a long time because I was just like really into it. Like, because when you first get into Overwatch, you're like, this is the only game I want to play. Like, you get so like deep into it, and then like you fight that love affair. Like, it seems like to be with like all Blizzard games, that like you want to play it, but you don't want to because there's other games out there. And I think that's just all games at this point. But I mean, more so with Blizzard games because of how well they do everything. Like, it's hard to have a bad critique on a Blizzard game at all.
Yeah, Blizzard kind of don't make. They kind of make different. It's almost like they have one world, and you kind of bounce between them all. They're
Mm-hmm.
really good at keeping that ecosystem going.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you see it, especially when BlizzCon comes around, and
Yeah.
you see all the goodies that come out of it and the events they do. So like at the moment, it's the WoW summer stuff, and that trickles over into Hearthstone, and then when the next events kick over, that'll kick into Heroes the Storm,
Yeah.
and then it'll trickle into Overwatch, and they'll just kind of cycle through each other.
Yeah.
It's a very clever way of.
And it's like really cool to see like I thought one of the greatest like integrations that they had was putting those like the classic Diablo skins and StarCraft skins into Overwatch, because they were like really well done. Like they really take their time to make it like an impactful addition to the game.
Yeah, that's some, and I know in the lore world and kind of Overwatch as general, that's something we asked them years ago if it was something they were going to do, but they said not for now because they didn't want to. They wanted to establish a brand first.
Yeah.
And then they created Blizzard World, and I was actually at that BlizzCon when all that stuff was, when you actually saw the live assets actually coming out. So that was a unique experience.
I'm sure. I'm
with
sure.
Developers as that all comes out.
You know, because it's not like you have these other conventions where it's just like, you know, it's a global thing, and then you have all these little microcosms of communities and stuff like that. No, you are here just for Blizzard stuff, you know, so it's very unified. You know, all the employees are, you know, I'm sure not all the employees, but a lot of like the key developers and stuff like that
You
there.
get a fair few, you get a lot of the key producers and developers and designers. A lot of those go there, and you get a lot of the staff from, especially the community part.
Mm-hmm.
So all of the community managers will be there for all of the different games.
Yep.
So it's really good to kind of be able to, because you can go catch these people on the floor. There's lots of BlizzCon, because it's a convention. It's all about the stuff around it.
Mm-hmm.
As well as the convention themselves, they've got all the Marriott hotels and all this kind of stuff around it. So you can actually go do other stuff, even outside of BlizzCon. So it's just all Blizzard for like 3 days straight.
Yeah.
It's a bit crazy.
So, being as invested as you are into like Blizzard as a development team, what drew you to Anthem? Like, we saw this game at E3 last year, and people were like, what is this? I don't know what it is, but I want it. You know, so what drove you to that?
Yeah, so as classic studios go, BioWare's probably one of the greatest studios that ever existed when it comes to anything RPG related. If you think of in-depth role-playing games, regardless of what kind of settings you like, you probably think of BioWare. And for me as a kid, it was KOTOR.
Yeah.
That was kind of my jam. That Dragon Age 1 and Mass Effect, so like way back when I was a teenager. Those were pretty much the only RPGs that I like really got played multiple times, especially KOTOR. I think I've completed the KOTOR series probably half a dozen times each.
Yeah.
That's easily my favorite RPG, and it just happens to be made by BioWare.
Oh yeah, and it's just like it's crazy to see like BioWare's evolution from that point. Like, you know, they did Baldur's Gate and Neverwinter Nights. You know, very like Dungeons and Dragons things, and then when they're brought on to do Star Wars, you know, that's a big deal. You know, especially from a company that's used to doing Dungeons and Dragons. Now you're doing sci-fi, and then that lended itself to, you know, going into Mass Effect, and then obviously now into Anthem. So I think it's been a pleasant evolution over time to see like what they were and where they're going now.
Yeah, and Anthem is kind of a weird melding of my childhood, because the Blizzard games I played when I was a kid was Diablo. That's what I played. I have like 3,000 hours in Diablo 2, whatever it was. That was the original looter game.
Yeah.
Pretty much. That's what kind of established that genre.
Yep.
Where you just grind loot in a mass market. I know there are other games before it, but that's kind of what set the standard for that generation, and it kind of carried over, and then it sprung into Diablo 3 and Path of Exile, two of the probably the best looter games that exist.
It's funny too, because if you hear BioWare, like they did I think it was Casey Hudson who did the interview, and he was talking about it, that like Baldur's Gate was, you know, one of those games too. Like it was like a grindy loot driven type of games, but you can also do it with your friends, you know. So like if you're gonna ask them, they might say that Baldur's Gate's a very similar vein to what they're doing right now. And that's it's crazy to see that you come full circle now, 20-something years later, and like you're making the next evolution of this particular genre that you became known for initially.
Yeah, and I think quite a lot of people see in Anthem is the melding of the modern era of games. So whether you like them or not, a lot of games are going into what they call the live service, which is kind of MMO light in a lot of ways. As a generation, we were probably the first generation that grew up on things like World of Warcraft and Neverwinter and all of these huge interactive games. But now we're grown up and we don't have the time to raid 20 hours a week.
Yeah, right. Well, like now as a content creator, like it's like you struggle to find the time just to make a video a couple times a week. Like that's where I'm at right now. It's like you have to work full time. You have to be a dad. You have to do this. You have to play the games. You can't create content if you're not playing the games to create them about. So 20 hours of raiding a week is a tall order.
Yeah, and I think that's where things like Destiny have such big followings.
Yeah.
They're even things like Borderlands, they have cult followings.
Yeah.
Because they fit that. It's not even a niche anymore. It's quite mainstream. But they kind of scratch the itch of being able to play with your friends, but you don't have to wait on 20 people to go do something. You can do stuff in smaller groups, but you can still do the loot grind. You can still get the progression, but you're not stuck to schedules. You can fit it around your life a bit easier, and I think it fits kind of an emerging market. And it's created this new way of doing loot shooters and all this kind of stuff that's melding all of these old, almost nostalgic aspects. So you're taking like the skill trees from almost from D&D pretty much. You're taking all those, you're putting new spins on them, but you're taking the mechs for things like Mech Warrior, and it's kind of scratching that itch, and then you're taking the loot from things like Borderlands and Diablo and all these kind of things, and you're kind of just mashing them all together.
Yeah, I think you're seeing like people from every corner of different different
different
communities, and they're all like, oh well, I like Diablo, but this is like Diablo and with mech suits, so I get it, so it's bringing a lot of people together, and it's going to be certainly interesting to see the type of people that gather when the game launches. Like I think that's the most exciting part about it, is that not only like my background right now is like sci-fi RPGs and Destiny games, Borderlands, looter shooters, and like being an adult and not having the time to like do all these things and then go out, to socialize. This is my socializing, so I like playing games with friends and doing these particular things, and Destiny, Division, Borderlands have all brought that aspect to the world of gaming, and I'm excited to see what both sides of it are. Like the tradition, like the more like traditional looter shooter people from like the Borderlands area, and them playing a BioWare game, and then the people from the BioWare RPG, community playing a looter shooter style game. So it's going to be a nice little blend of all the things,
Yeah, and I think BioWare are putting their own spin on it.
Yeah.
In the way that they're doing the story. So I know people are conflicted on it because some people want certain things in the story that aren't in there, but the story's been told almost as the priority in a lot of ways, where you have things like Destiny where it has all of the right elements, but none of them are quite executed to the level you want them to be.
Yeah.
It's one of those games that it feels like it has so much potential, but it never quite hits it. And I think the way BioWare approaching the story kind of solves one of the problems you get looter games, where the story can kind of just fade away and is almost irrelevant in a lot of ways. You can just blast through a story and it makes no difference if you listen to any dialogue whatsoever.
Yeah.
But it's there if you kind of want to do it. But this kind of throws you in the deep end of the story.
Yeah.
By having completely different viewpoints. Like you literally go first person for story and you're third person for the actual game.
Yep.
So it completely separates the two.
And it's contextual too. It's not like it's just done because they can't do it,
Yeah, and it's taking it. It's all mocapped. It's heavily story. It's scripted. it's like you're living through parts. The way they've kind of done it is that there's a lot of cutscenes, but you're kind of living in those cutscenes. Like your character actually is in those cutscenes, and it's your character interacting, even though you don't have, even though we've not seen it, we know there are going to be options that you get to make that alters your experience.
Yeah.
So you will see stuff other people don't get to see because you took certain decisions, because you sided with a certain person or you made this decision. It might be minor, but once you start adding those up, you can really get quite a lot of depth out of them.
And tailor an experience to how you want to play the game or how you chose to play the game.
Yeah, and
that's BioWare.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you think of BioWare, is the world changes around you, not you changed the world so much.
Yeah. So, what can the Anthem community expect from Dantier and Low Mana Gaming?
Obviously there's This Week in Anthem. So I'm trying to keep that mostly community focused. So I'm trying to edge it closer to being 50-50 news, 50-50 community spotlights.
It's tough. It's tough right now. Like we're on that really like dry spell of stuff. Like I was expecting to see something from Comic-Con and it wasn't much.
No. I think next time we're going to see stuff is probably something we'll talk about later, so I won't go into that too much.
Yep.
But
yeah.
I'm trying to, especially as we dry out, I'm going to probably focus it more heavily on the streamers that are going to be focusing on it, because there's a couple of podcasts. So there's this one, and there's a few of the other ones I know we're in lots of communities.
Well, yeah, no, I mean, there's two. There's actually four. There's four more on Mixer alone. So there's There's the Freelancer Codex. They've been doing the podcast like the longest and most consistent.
Yes,
you have Anthem Universe. They just started their Mixer channel this week as well. They have been doing the Dark Zone report for Division, so they're very well versed in the community aspect of things. Anthem Insider is also doing a Mixer show. He's primarily on Twitch and more of like a news outlet, but you know the community is still growing. And there's another one, Guns of Anthem. I don't really know them too much, but I did see that they had a channel here. But then it's everywhere else. It's everywhere else. Like I try to be like more Mixer focused because this is my home platform and this is where I want to start building the community. But it's global. It's a global thing, and I think we like all of us as Anthem content creators have that ideal that we want it to be a unified thing. There's no reason to separate because of platform, and that's I think that's the silliest thing, that a lot of people have this idea in the back of their head, like, oh, it's a Twitch versus Mixer versus Facebook versus YouTube battle. It's not like that.
I would say Anthem's got the most diverse content creators.
Yeah.
That I'm aware of, at least. Because I've been like with Overwatch and Heroes of the Storm, I've been to launch parties and all that kind of stuff, and they tend to be focused. Blizzard stuff in general is always PC focused. That's always PC people. Although Overwatch did start dipping into the console side, but it was kind of like the secondary thing. But now you're starting to see crossplay becoming more common, especially with Xbox. They're now accepted that they are a PC platform.
Yeah.
Considering they're Microsoft, and they're starting to link the two a lot more. Almost to shove it in Sony's face, I actually think. But
yeah, I don't doubt that for a second.
But you if you go into even like just the Anthem, like the Reddit Anthem Discord, it's probably 50-50 between PC, console, Sony.
Yep. Pretty even split there.
Which I think Warframe is probably the best example of how that's going at the moment, where they're really branching out into everything, so you can play it however you want.
Yeah. And
they give that period to transfer your stuff over to the platform you want to play on. But the community's still together.
They need crossplay.
Yeah.
I'm really like chest deep in Warframe right now, and like I'm playing on two consoles. It's rough, but I'm like playing Warframe, Destiny, and I plan on playing Anthem on two consoles too. It's just like it's a maddening grind. Oh, and Borderlands too. I've been playing Borderlands on two consoles too, so it's fun, but like that's what happens when you try to build a community, is that you try to be as accessible as possible, like have all the avenues and all the opportunities for everybody, and that's just I guess the headache we choose to deal with it with sometimes.
Yeah, and I suppose I have the advantage of, because I tend to focus on lore stuff. Because I do that, it doesn't matter what platform you're on.
Yeah, exactly.
It's the story. It's the same regardless of where you are, which I think is helpful in that regard. So yeah, that's if anyone's seen like the biggest series that's on our channel, which is Lore Watch. Those are like character ridiculous, like almost as if we're telling it as a story that should have been in the game, kind of. We're just like a narrated story through there, which they've actually started doing, which is quite funny. In the intros, we do those, but deep dive them.
Yeah.
So they're getting longer and longer as more stuff comes out.
Right.
I'll be doing something along those lines for Anthem, both in like the NPCs that you have and your interactions with them. But I think it's going to be interesting when we see the options, because I'm probably going to have to play the game multiple times to find out all the different versions of the characters.
Or at least get someone's capture files.
Yeah, or find someone else to find someone to play the opposite way to me, kind of thing.
And I think that's something that BioWare has always done, like as a studio in the past, is like had a very good and direct way to tell the story of everything that's happened before where you are right now. Like, I remember the first time I played Mass Effect, and you just go in there and like you spend an hour and a half reading the codex. Like I didn't play the game, like I didn't do anything besides read the codex for the first like I think hour and a half that I played the game.
The going to the Citadel for the first time.
Yep.
And you spend 4 hours just talking to people.
Yeah, or just like just going around the water and just like going to every little thing that you can interact with, and like learning the Krogan Rebellion, learning about the Rachni Wars, learning about the First Contact. And like these are all things that I talk about, like they're regular history events that you learn in school. You know, like that's how impactful that their stories have been, and I think it's going to be the same thing in Anthem.
Yeah, and they were really good, even though the end of 3 was a little bit flaky. I think the problem is they set the bar so high on 2. That's like, to me, that's the perfect ending to any RPG that's ever been made, is the end of 2, where literally every single micro decision you've ever made was mentioned in the final cutscene.
Yep.
The cutscene changes in like 90 thousands of different ways, depending on what actions you specifically took in your story across 2 games.
Yeah, and who lives or who dies, you know, like.
Yeah, and 3 does that, and then kind of drops the ball at the very, very end.
Yeah.
It's great right up to that final hurdle, but they're really good at tying those things together, because you hear about the Reapers all the way back in number 1. You just have no idea what they are.
Yep.
And then you're in the building like this background enemy, like the big bad is coming. Kind of like Marvel did with their universe, where like everyone knows Thanos is the big bad.
Yeah.
There's all these little steps to get there first, and you're seeing all the pieces click together, and that's what they've been doing. That's all their games. Like KOTOR did that with all the with like the big reveal where you are the big bad, depending on how you play it.
Yeah.
And you've got all these hints that link back to them, but depending on how you play, you may see, you may not see some of these hints, or they may not be relevant to your character.
Yeah, they may be completely glossed over.
Yeah. So I'm hoping some of that kind of seeps into the core story.
It's I don't feel so good. Darklights talking in the chat, like we were talking about that the other day. That's the Thanos thing. You completely threw me off there. I don't know, like just the way that like everything has been presented like so far, like it just really adds up for a really good storytelling opportunity, and I think just the foundation that they're laying right now is very good, and you know, there's substance to it. It's not like you are this person and this, that, the other thing. Like everything up front has a reason. You know, like it's called Anthem. You have the echoes of the anthem. You know, it's all things like that's a theme, and they're centering around those things. Like they take a lot of time to write the stuff. You know, and people want to say 6 years is a long time to develop a game, but it's not. Especially new IP. You know, like if you're gonna say you're gonna make the next Call of Duty and it takes 6 years, that's you might have an issue there, but when you're making a story and you're worried about storytelling and new worlds, it's going to take time to do that.
Yeah, I think a great example of that is the new God of War. That game took nearly 6 years to make. It was at least 5 years.
Yeah.
Minimum of 5 years to make. And it shows. Like, the quality came through in the end, and it was worth those 5-6 years that they put into that game. Even even though they went through all that doubt of are they changing things too much, or it was worth it in the end. So I'm not saying Anthem's going to be the next God of War.
Well, we'll see. Usually, like looter shooters and social games don't get on those kind of level of accolade. So we'll see. We'll see for sure. But I mean, for God of War to be as far of a departure from the original series as it could be, but still makes sense. Like that's a testament to the writing staff. At the studio.
And the technology to have basically one camera shot for a 60-hour game. Insane.
Yeah. Human saying, I feel like it's how Star Trek did the Borg originally, like hints and speculation. Yeah, I agree, and I think like there are few studios as good as BioWare to deliver something like that. I'm not knocking any studio, but like being as much of a BioWare fan as I am, like I do have a bias.
Yeah, they bring that kind of pedigree with them.
Yeah,
because that's what they're established, and they have proven that they can deliver on that. And so that even though people will say the newer stuff has kind of slipped, the story was still there in everything they've done.
Yeah.
So it's not like they've dropped the ball too heavy on story or anything. They've tried a few things. Some of them didn't work. Some stuck. Some didn't. And it feels like some of those, especially Andromeda, or the multiplayer for 3, where they had that was it 4-verse environment, horde mode kind of wave thing. Those all feel like tiny bits of Anthem. Like that 4-player thing with comboing abilities was all the way back there in Mass Effect. You used to do it by yourself, and they added a party, and you started having the vanguards mixing with like your spell throwers and all this, and you could make your 4-man team of actual people. You could combo all of your abilities. So you throw out your singularity, then you detonate the singularity from someone else. And you've got these people setting up all those combos. All those are there on a micro scale. They've just massively blown them up. The
Mass Effect Andromeda multiplayer was fantastic. I think the ability to if they would have given a little bit more flexibility in the classes, it would have been that much better. But even I think the base kits were pretty good. There was few kits where you were like, I don't know if this is gonna work. But some of the thing, like a lot, I just loved like you said, combo abilities. Like you had the kineticist just kind of ran around and just like it's like combo, and then like the higher you spec yourself out, you have the ability to like recharge in like 2 seconds. So like it was just like limitless combos, and it was a lot of fun. Like there's nothing more fun than just blowing stuff up in a video game.
Yeah, and I definitely feel like they're porting those ideas over, because you can kind of just see those bits of games as they've evolved, and it almost feels like they've been leading up to this. Whether that's true or not, I don't know, but that's what it looks like.
I mean, I have my own conspiracy theory about that, but that's for another time. We'll actually address Ramos's statement here before we get to the news. I thought Elder Scrolls are a bit controversial, but I love them. Love them all. It take 4+ years between them, and they are incredible worlds. Yeah, and that's what very impactful storytelling takes. Like they're not gonna. I think it's one thing to like they're building a world, and number two, they have to put enough story into the game up front so that we can have some drip feed. Like we're gonna get stuff for free. That's encouraging, but just because it's free doesn't mean it doesn't have to be there before we. Yeah, it doesn't mean like good's one thing. Like that's another hesitation that I have. But the fact that if you're gonna try to pump stuff out at a consistent interval, it's got to be done before the game's launched. Like you can't have the game launch with no extended content and then just start trying to trickle things in here and there, because you'll have half-assed stuff.
Yeah, and I suspect they've having seen the development of things like Overwatch, not too much, but a little bit from the other side, and how far in advance they plan those things. I wouldn't be surprised if they've got ideas for 4 more Javelins at this point already. Oh
yeah, I think the base ideas are there.
Yeah, like they have an idea of what they want that archetype to achieve.
Yeah.
And I suspect they're going to go down the route of Warframing a little bit in terms of longevity thing,
Yep.
where you can buy all the like skins or whatever that you want. You can get most of it in game if you just grind it. Same, but the Javelins are going to be a bit like the Warframe itself, where a new Warframe will be introduced, and from what I understand, each Javelin in Anthem kind of has its own story element as to why it exists.
Yeah.
Because these things are hand built, so
Yeah.
there's a story element. So you might have to go out and physically make this, and that
Yep.
might have a whole story about how you discover this technology, and that could be an entire expansion block. So that
Yeah.
might be that part might be free, and then all the bits that support that might actually be where the paid stuff comes in. So the new
Yeah.
cosmetics to support that.
Or just exactly what Warframe does. Like they give you the story up front. You can get the Javelin for free if you grind it out. But hey, look, if you don't want to put 40 hours into it, you can pay for it right now. Like
yeah. So I think the story will be to get the plans.
Yeah.
And
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, like they've already like set a tone where Fort Tarsus is named after one of the people of the Legion of Dawn. So I mean, you have at least 3 other people in the Legion of Dawn. So I mean, those are types of things that you could see in the future as well. Like that was something that Destiny did good in the beginning, but like executed it bad later. Like they made a big deal of these legends and heroes and stuff like that of the past, and then had a poor way that they implemented it into Destiny 2. You know, so that's and you know BioWare's looking at those things. They're absolutely looking at those things to see, like, Osiris was this prolific character in Destiny 1 and then brought into Destiny 2, and he's a meme basically.
Yeah, he's that guy from a cutscene that you see at the end of the expansion.
Yep. On top of the fact that like he was just like this bald guy with a raspy beard, like you're like, what is this? This is not the hero I was expecting. I mean, the initial cutscene was pretty badass, like seeing him like fight all the Vex by himself. But
Destiny they're a bit like Blizzard in that they're one of the best at making cutscenes.
Well, I think they took all of that from Blizzard. Like you can see the difference of quality from the cutscenes from 1 to 2, and see that like this is all like 95% Blizzard influence right here.
you can see that Bungie, I think, are one of the best at marketing.
Yeah.
Like initial launches, they are the hype machine.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Destiny 2, Destiny's probably the most hyped game, which is why it crashed so hard.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the number one selling or most digitally downloaded game twice. Destiny 1 and Destiny 2. The only other game that comes close is Division, and I just think that's just showing you where these games are going. Like this is the way that the market's going. As much as people don't want to admit it or anything like that, you know, you don't want a live service game. This is the way that games are going to go. Story games are going to be there, but they're not going to be the main focus because they don't have longevity. Story games don't have longevity. They have transcendence. That's a different conversation. You know, having longevity and being able to play a game every single day, or having the memory of a game that you played that was really good for a long time, you know. So they're two different things.
Yeah. Although I would say there's definitely space for both.
Oh, I'm not saying that there's not.
Yeah.
It's just I think they're marketing to two different people at this point.
Yeah, because I know the main concern for Anthem is actually its publisher, not the people making it.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's EA and their reputation, which to a degree is holding back Anthem in a lot of ways. I think if it came out on Steam and BioWare just released a game on Steam, just out of nowhere, and they just released Anthem on it, I reckon without that, without EA kind of in people's minds and what EA has done in the past with studios, it probably would have less negative press.
Yeah.
Because there wouldn't be that doubt.
They wouldn't even think about it. People would just put on their Steam wishlist. They'll just automatically be uploaded at some point.
Sweet, BioWare game, I'm in.
Yeah, BioWare game on Steam? Alright, I'm in.
Yeah.
Alright, so we'll get into the little bit of news that we have this week. So, Bennett Irving, he's one of the lead directors on the project. He tweeted encouraging statements about BioWare's All Hands event. So if you don't understand what the All Hands event is, it's kind of like the entire studio gets together. They show everything they have to offer. So they're obviously working on Anthem. They're obviously working on Dragon Age 4. And from what I understand, there is a unknown project that BioWare is working on, and it's completely unknown. I know John Warner's working on it. There's other people in the studio, and if you ever see them talk about something, they say redacted. There is a game in development. It's not a secret. This is not things that not telling us. They're telling us that they are working on a game. So I mean, it's definitely encouraging to see that they're speaking about other people's departments and seeing different things, because there's very few people working on the game that have seen everything. You know, I think John Warner is the only person. Maybe John Warner, Casey Hudson are the few people that have seen everything in the game right now. Yeah, Mark Dara, yeah. But I mean, these are good things. You know, to know that those games are going good. If Anthem goes good, it just gives more incentive for them to make better games moving forward. So I mean, if you look at Anthem as a BioWare fan and say, you know what, I'm not that interested in this, you want it to do good because you want Dragon Age to come out, and if you want it to do good, you want Mass Effect to come back out in the future too, because they're still on the table. So then the other thing is Mark Dara stated he would be at PAX West along with other BioWare devs. So that's probably when we're going to see new info. So either that or Gamescom, and I have 100% positive confirmation that the game will be playable at Gamescom. I'm not sure to what extent, but I
think it's going to be the demo.
Okay.
I think you'll be limited to probably the Colossus, maybe the Ranger.
So, I spoke with Bags about this because he's been on the show before, and he's going. EA is they got him a pass, they got him in. He's just got to get his flight there, so he's going. But they didn't say what the level of clearance is going to be for that, for playing it, but it's going to be playable by some particular measure of people there. So I don't know if that's going to be general public or if it's going to be select people from EA. If
it's Gamescom, I would say public.
Yeah. So are you going to Gamescom?
I'm not. No.
Oh.
I wanted to go.
Yeah.
Because I'm going to TwitchCon and BlizzCon back to back.
Okay.
Doing those instead.
Yeah, so it's kind of like trying to find time. Not have too much time away.
Yeah, and that stuff's. And the other point is doing content for all conventions. It's actually worth doing it there unless you have exclusives.
Yeah.
So unless you're able to go, like EA was a good example. Like going to EA was good because you got to play it, and therefore you were able to do content that other people couldn't because no one else got to play. So you got to see the full demo that we got to see 6 weeks later or whatever it was. So you could do that content before. But if they'd have, say, just shown the entire demo, it would have been less relevant for people to go out there.
Yeah.
Which is a balance. I know they try and do, and sometimes they get it wrong, but I know that's a balance they go through from like a marketing standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
Because you want these people to come out and promote your game, but you don't want to. They're kind of. It's
choosy.
Not a positive thing to go out there for them in terms of money. It's good for connections, but not in terms of you don't actually make money. It's normally a loss going out to these conventions.
Absolutely.
Because you can't cover things as fast, you can't cover them as deeply, you don't have the resources to do with the same high quality, and equipment is expensive. So unless you're established, equipment is expensive.
Yeah, I'm trying to mentally plan out my next year. I was actually telling my wife about it today. Doing PAX East, PAX South, and GuardianCon next year. So that's like my 3 right now to try to kick it. Like people are trying to get me to go to PAX West right now, and I was like, man, PAX West is in like a couple weeks, and the only tickets that are available are Sunday. That's like the worst day to go.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'll pass on it for now. But I mean, it's certainly like from a content creator standpoint, it's like you said, it's more of a marketing thing or a networking thing than anything else, and it'd be really, really interesting to get my hands on a game, or your hands on a game at Gamescom. But to what extent? There's other things that other things we have prior engagements with. Like you said, like TwitchCon and BlizzCon. So I mean, that's your main thing is BlizzCon every year. So.
Yeah, that stuff's not cheap.
But the encouraging thing is to know that they're going to be there, and to know that the game's going to be seen more. I kind of agree with you to the fact that they're probably going to get the same exact things that they got at E3 EA Play.
Be shocked if they got anything new.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe you get to finish the fight.
Yeah. Well, no. I think they did that.
You did, didn't you?
Yeah, I think the Game Changers got their hands on the game and got to finish the entire fight. I mean, that's exciting. I want to blow stuff up with that Colossus nuke. Like,
Which
I don't even like the Colossus,
scaled
but
back.
watching that thing, I was like, I want to play this.
They scaled that back because they said it was way stronger. Than it is.
They give it to me now. Give me the full power of it.
Yeah, they're like, yeah, we have to scale back the damage because otherwise it just looks. It makes other stuff look bad.
Oh my god.
Because they didn't want to make the content look too easy.
Yeah.
Because they were all overpowered, so they scaled back some of the stuff so it didn't look like they could just roll it.
I guess you have to have a happy medium because like you want E3 like a big time convention showing to be more like let's show off the good of it, like not like things are spongy or
and you don't want bullet sponges and you don't want your people to die.
Yeah, no, definitely not. And you see like some of them like almost die a couple times.
Yeah.
So, moving on to the next thing, Caroline Livingstone, she's lead casting for BioWare. She stated motion capture was completed, so that's very reassuring. The motion capture is now completed. So I don't know if that's 100% with like the voice acting as well. But Nick Tarabay, he plays Halleck. He recently did Expanse. He did a couple episodes of Expanse and Spartacus. He said, and this is a quote, "You guys are gonna lose your shit with this game. Cannot wait." So that's very reassuring that like the people putting their time into it are very excited about it. You know, you could be a paid actor and everything like that, but that's one thing you see about BioWare, like people that do BioWare games, is that like they are into the fandom. Like Mark Meir still dresses up in N7 armor at cons.
I think Blizzard do the exact same thing. They're like Overwatch especially, you really see it, which I think is helped by who they are.
Yeah.
Because you've got Matt Mercer, who's like the biggest known voice actor in the world right now, because he's the face of D&D pretty much now.
Mm-hmm.
And he's also the face of one of the biggest characters in Overwatch. And you've got all the splits, and he's kind of also the face of anime.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like voice actors are a lot more exposed in the last 2 or 3 years than they ever have been. Before, most people wouldn't even be able to tell you what someone looks like unless they hear them. Whereas now, a lot of people know who their favorite voice actor, like they'll know who the characters are in the games in real life.
Yeah.
Something that never used to happen. They're kind of hitting the celebrity status that never used to be there.
Yeah, and you know, I'm not trying to like downplay it, but they're just doing the voice lines. They're not on the camera, you know, like so like it's people are going out of their way to learn who these people are because they are invested into the franchise, they're invested into the voice, invested into the character because, you know, as much as and like most characters in game are modeled after regular people, but they're not the people that voice it half the time, more than half the time. Yeah,
I think that's changing a lot more.
Yeah.
So you like with the new technology they've got out, so you look at things like The Last of Us and Detroit Become Human stuff. They're really pushing even Shadow of Mordor, that kind of stuff, where they've really started pushing the mocap a bit more. You can really tell, you can tell that the main character of The Last of Us is Ashley Johnson. It looks like a young Ashley Johnson, so that the voice matches it a bit more. So I think a good thing about them wrapping up the motion cap now is that probably means the voiceover for all the mocap, so all the cinematic work is probably done.
Yeah.
And that script is set and that's done. So if they are going to redo lines, it's probably not in those. It'll probably be
HUD stuff, like
HUD stuff. It'll be mission-based stuff where you're not interacting with them one-to-one. It's not going to be cutscenes or that, which means that the story is all set and all done, written, and kind of done. It's just going through production now to be made. Yeah. Which is a good thing in terms of they've got the time to actually make it. But it means that the story, is finished. Because I know a lot of people. If you look at, is it the last 3 people that are left? One of them was like one of the main story writers for BioWare. Wasn't one of the main ones for Anthem necessarily, but like one of the people who wrote KOTOR. So
James Olin. Yeah. Go figure. Like, you know, we didn't have a lot of news, and then they did a big article on him in Game Informer. I just saw it like 2 hours ago. I was like, great, just it changed my entire plan of what we were going to talk about. No, we'll talk about that next week though. But I mean, he's like a super important writer in the history of BioWare. He's been there from like literally day one. He was there with the doctors all the way through to Anthem. You know, and he pretty much saw Anthem. Saw its way through. I mean, he wasn't necessarily like the lead writer,
I don't think
but he was lead narrative director, I believe, and he handed the reins off to Kathleen Rutsart, you know, who
She did Dragon Age. Did she mess up Andromeda?
Yeah, she did Andromeda. That I know for sure.
Yeah, she did Andromeda, and I'm pretty sure she did the Inquisition. Pretty sure she was on that.
But I mean, like the writing direction for yeah, well he did Star Wars. I know that. Like he did Old Republic, and KOTOR. He didn't do as much of. He didn't do as much as KOTOR. I was reading it. I read it quickly, and I was like, all right, I'll wait till next year.
He goes back to the Baldur's Gate.
Oh yeah, no, he said that his shining moment was Baldur's Gate 2, but he's been there the entire time. So I mean, it's reassuring that like he basically what he said, like to summarize everything, that people have been there so long. People have like been with BioWare like 10, 15, 20 years, and it's not that they're not liking what they're doing anymore, but it's you get to a point where you just want something new, like BioWare is constantly on the front lines of like changing the way people look at RPGs, and he just wants to go be with his baby, like do more D&D stuff, and you can understand that, like that's your passion project. If that's what drove you to get into this, and like you're not doing that anymore, I can understand why you want to get into creating more. And that's another thing he said, is that like he doesn't want to be directing so much. You only spend so much time being the general, but sometimes you want to be the soldier too, like, and that's kind of like the way. I mean, that's a kind of bad bad way to look at it, but
it's quite common in the market. It's just it's not publicized as much as it is now, because you look at I go back to Blizzard because I know more about it, but people like Ben Brode, he's left to go do his own thing, but he basically was there. He was the heart of Hearthstone. He was like the face of Hearthstone, and he was there all the way through Hearthstone. He's been there on past Blizzard stuff, but now he's gone to do his own thing. It's not that they're dropping Hearthstone. Why would they do that? It's that he's reached a point where he's happy. He's done what he wanted to do with that.
Yeah. And
he's gone to do his own thing. He started a small startup, and you're seeing a lot of developers going back to like their roots and making the first game they've worked on, but their vision of it.
Yeah.
Or their reimagining of those kind of games. So I know that's happened with like almost a dozen Blizzard, like really old Blizzard people. Have been there 20, 25, 30 years.
Yeah.
People have been there their entire lives. They don't need that anymore. They're stable enough that they can go do their own thing now. And it gets to a point in those kind of careers where you choose the pay cut to go do what you go chase your dream again.
Yeah, absolutely.
They've already done what they want to do.
You do enough. Yeah, exactly. You do enough for the money, and then you do it for the love of it.
Yeah, or you do a Chris Metzen and you do it for your health and be with your family and all this kind of stuff because you've made your impression in the world.
Yep. So one more thing. Yeah, I mean, one more important thing. I mean, like EA and BioWare posted up an interview with Mike Gamble, which is basically everything that we already saw in Game Informer. So if you're looking at Anthem's website, they're recapping everything we already know. So if you want to be on the forefront of the news, you can follow me, follow Dantier. We're gonna give that sort of news out. Anthem Insider is gonna have it. Anthem Universe is gonna have it. But the trickle down, actually some of the news sites too. Game Informer. I'm not sure how much Game Informer is gonna do now. They had the month of exclusive coverage, and then
every month they do a different thing.
Yeah, I just don't know how much they're going to stay up on it, because I mean they had this one last interview with James Olin today, but
yeah, I don't think they'll be doing much outside of like big press stuff.
Yeah,
so they'll probably do something for Gamescom and all that kind of stuff, but they probably won't do anything until the demo. Like the live demo.
I'm sure. But EA BioWare. So if you missed anything, EA BioWare is going to have it on their own site, basically with their own journalist team. So the last major thing, as far as news goes, is that there was a Reddit post that was asking about gear slots on the Javelin.
Oh,
so
yeah, I saw this.
This is actually really good. So
yeah, I was going to cover that.
Someone had said there's 2 weapon slots and 2 gear slots, and that's something we already know. So basically, like your abilities, you have 2 ability slots. You have your ult. Your ult is static on no matter which Javelin you have.
Yep.
There's all of the tiers are for abilities. So like you can have like the the mortars, all of the mortars so you have like the common mortars, rare mortars, and stuff like that from the top to the bottom. And then someone said, like, oh, is that it? How could it be a looter shooter with 4 gear slots? And someone said, well, maybe there are only modifications to the slots for weapon and gear. Not a lot has been elaborated on. And I am fairly certain there's going to be modifications for all those things. Definitely the weapons. If there's not modifications for the abilities, it's definitely for the weapons.
I think they said you could change subtle things like the element, stuff like that. You might be able to turn it from a fire to a frost, that kind of stuff, so you can do more combos.
So Brendan Holmes, like, he's been the BioWare Jesus, like, giving us all the information, or the prophet, if you will. He said, I believe we've said so far is it's that there are active and passive slots, and you've only listed the active slots. So there's actually going to be passive abilities. So stuff I'm sure like active regeneration and stuff like that. Boosting damage output and stuff.
This is something they messed up a bit. I think in all of their coverage so far is they misspoke in how they described it, because they said before that you level up the skills of your Javelin and the skills of your pilot separate. So what that implies is that you have a skill tree
separately. Yeah.
You don't actually have that. You have one skill tree that's your pilot. That's kind of, you tailor it to your style, and that kind of goes over everything. And then there's 6. I think it's 6 slots, isn't it? I think is what they said. There's currently 6 slots on the passive side, and that'll be your perks. So that'll be specific Javelin perks. So you can tailor it to do your fire damage. You can do it your long range.
Interesting.
That might be regeneration. That might be increasing range. That might be bonus damage to certain types of elements. That kind of stuff.
And like Rhombus just said in the chat there, I kind of think it might be like Borderlands. Like each gun has a lot of variants, but then they make it interchangeable. I agree with that 100%, and I think we might see more similarities to Borderlands than we do the other looter shooters. Like I think it's gonna be more like Borderlands and Destiny or Division.
Yeah, I don't know as much about Division.
In a loot sense.
They're going with that. Yeah, I think they're going down that route, which is almost identical to the Diablo 3 route, where you get gear sets. And I think what they mean by gear sets is that you'll be able to say, the 2 Colossus you see, there's one that's obviously fire-based and there's one that's range-based. The fire one is probably a style of set where you have a flamethrower and you have a firewall, and then you have a supporting passive skills that make that into a set.
Yep.
And then once you complete that set of, say, it might just be the 2 skills and 2 passives. That might be your 4 set piece. So once you have 2, you might get bonus. You might have bonus regeneration or something on your fire skills, and the next one might make them expand. So when you kill an enemy, it might increase the length of your firewall.
Or the combos ignite faster, something like that.
It might be combos. It sets things on fire faster. All this kind of stuff.
Yeah.
I think that's what the sets are going to be, and I hope they go kind of crazy with the sets.
Yeah.
Like they do in Diablo and things. Like you can just do weird, like they will pick up one ability and just run with it. And
I mean, that's John Warner said that specifically. Like, if I can compare this to any game, it's Diablo 3. Like, the loot chase is going to be as close to Diablo 3 as any of these other loot games that we talk about, which is definitely encouraging because, I mean, Diablo 3 has been out 6 years?
Not quite that long. Oh, no, maybe.
No, it's at least 2012. Yeah. I know that.
Yeah. Yes.
You're like, damn, it's been that long.
Well, yeah, because I played that back in beta. So
yeah.
That was a long time ago. Yeah, probably about 6 years now.
So,
yeah.
I mean, and people are still playing religiously.
Yeah, that is one of the examples of you can make a terrible game at launch, but you can fix it.
Yep.
That's one of the best examples of that.
I mean, like, the good thing is that contextually they put it into the lore as well, so that, I mean, if the game is really, really bad, they could just wipe the entire game clean if they wanted to, and it actually makes sense in the lore.
Yeah, Diablo is one of the first lore things I learned about. Like, the interaction between the Javelin and Hells is really, really deep in that game. And it goes way deeper than you see. And it does a thing that Dark Souls does, and it's done it way before Dark Souls, where each item is linked to like a person or a place or an event in the world. There's thousands of those items, and that's not only do you get the story, but you get that which adds all the history, like why the Ariat champions sit on that mountain and who were they, where did they come from. That's in Diablo 3.
Yeah.
You actually meet parts of them. You go to where some of them are from. And they're like legendary things, and that they have their own legendary items, which their power is kind of thrust into when they die, kind of stuff.
Yeah.
and that's kind of how Dark Souls does its lore. That's how Diablo 3 does all of its lore. And you see, I think Anthem is in a place where they can really do that well.
Yep.
Because there's so much of this mysterious stuff that we know nothing about.
Yep.
And we know they didn't invent it all.
No, and I mean, to see like everything is basically handed down, so there's obviously going to be some sort of emotion tied to items and story and myth and fun stuff.
What I really want is what they've done with the barbarians in Diablo 3 and Diablo 2, where where they take the sets, and that is a set of a person that used to exist.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe that fire set was one of the original Legion of Dawn members. Maybe there was 12 Legion of Dawn members,
mm-hmm.
And they had that's like 3 sets for one set for each thing, and that was like the 12 Legion of Dawn core members. And then the expansion is all the extra stuff they find about the other splinters that come off it.
Yep.
I really like them to do the sets like that, where the set isn't just, oh, you've got fire abilities now. This was what a particular person wore 400 years ago, and you've recreated it in the modern era, and now you can take your take on it, because you can add your own modification slots to it, and now you've got that, but now you've built on it.
Yeah.
It's a really good way of telling a story and doing your loot and pulling it all together in a way that's engaging without being really boring.
Yeah. No, I agree 100%, I really look forward to things like that, because every time you hear one person talk about it, it gives you a new idea about what it could potentially be. And those are the things that are encouraging to me. Like, I want to be heavily invested in the world. Like, I want to go to sleep at night and be like, well, why did this thing happen? Or why do I want to chase this? Or I have to wake up early tomorrow before my son gets up because I want to get this thing. Those are the things I miss about Destiny 1, is that you always had a reason to go in every day and play the game, whether it be for learning about this new weapon, finding all the ghosts in the game. Those I don't even want to talk about.
That's one thing Destiny actually does quite well, is it's especially in 2, where they've actually started telling the story about why things exist.
Mm-hmm.
You've seen things from Destiny 1, and now those are weapons in Destiny 2. I think they could do some of it better, but they've done a good job on transferring some of that lore into the items themselves, even the sparrows and that kind of stuff.
Yep.
Where these are iconic things of a person that lives on Mars, all this kind of stuff, and maybe that person's died, or maybe they're still alive, we just lost them, but now we have their gun, whatever. And it kind of opens up possibilities about where are they now, and maybe it gives you a little story about how can you find the next answer to the next question that you found.
Yep, give me all the breadcrumbs. That's what I want.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so
speculation.
No, yeah, absolutely. So we'll take the questions from chat, see if anybody's here. Wanting to know anything, want to contribute to the conversation we're having here tonight. Like I said, this is about community. We're always gonna sit here and have open conversation about the game, about the lore, about what color you want your javelin to be. I want mine bright orange, like my glasses, or N7. I want N7 skins. Give me that every day.
Oh yeah, that looked real good.
Pink javelins, yes. Yes, I want to get a nice pink Colossus like Diva.
That would be brilliant. Oh, I think it was a Diva knockoff that even says Mecha on the side or something.
Yeah. Too bad the companies won't cross over like that. But I mean, I'm sure you'll see. Obviously, we've seen N7 things already.
Titanfall 2.
Yes, yeah. They've kind of discussed things like that, and then Isaac Clarke from Dead Space, Kingdoms of Amalur, I believe, is actually still technically in that same family of stuff. Give me the Crash Course Anthem lore story. If we knew it, we could. But I mean, the basics of what we know is that,
Yeah, I could do that in 30 seconds.
You got it.
Yeah.
Rip.
So, Anthem. The reason it's called Anthem is because of the Anthem of creation. So Anthem is set on a planet that we don't know the name of just yet, but it's a planet that has humans on it for some reason. But Earth doesn't exist in this world that we know of. We're not Earthlings, but we're on this planet. The planet is controlled. Well, not controlled. It had these creators who left these machines, and those creators were called the Shapers. And they left these shaping machines, so we call them Shapers, and they create Shaper Storms. Jeez, the chat's gone crazy.
Yeah, we just got raided by my buddy Plan B.
Nice.
Appreciate that, dude.
Yeah. So those affect the world. They make crazy big monsters. They make the giant Ursics that you see. They make all the little things. You're down to Grabbits. And then there's these two other factions that we see. We've got the Dominion, which is another faction of the humans, but the evil ones. They're the fascists, essentially, in a nutshell. You got Scar, which are the almost the children of the Shapers, and worship them. And we're just trying to survive. And we have Javelin, so we can go out into that world and not just get crushed by the Dominion and the Scar and the world changing constantly. And that's where you get all the Shaper Storms, and you get all these machines turning on and off, changing the environments entirely, and doing all the weird stuff.
I mean, it's definitely gonna be certainly interesting to see like how deep they want to go with some of these things.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they showed us Shaper Storms, but they haven't really like elaborated on it yet. And that was like the one big thing that they showed us last year, and now we like nothing else. Like where's this? Where's it going? What are we doing with it?
Have you ever heard of a game called Firefall?
I've heard people talk about it in some of the Discords.
Yeah. Firefall is like the precursor to Anthem in almost every single way.
Wow.
No joke. So that was made by one of the original developers of WoW. He made his own studio and was like, this is my MMO. And the MMO was based around mining, and you literally call down giant mining machines and you defended them. You fought off like giant bugs that looked like they're from Starship Troopers, which was really cool. And it was a bit anime, which was a bit weird, but it had storms in it. And what those storms meant is that you went into that storm, you had to defeat the storm. So you, along with all the other people in the instance, so it was almost like a mini raid. And you can have, I think it was 12 people in the storm, and you go in and you end up inside the cyclone, and it's like a portal to another dimension almost, or another part of the world. And when you're inside, you can collect all these resources. You have to fight harder enemies like mini bosses and world bosses and that kind of stuff. You collect your resources, and then you have to escape as the storm collapses. And it's like this spiral staircase, is like the world is literally moving, and like the ground literally lifts and like just goes all over the place. So you're jumping with your jetpack, because you even have jetpacks like Anthem that overheat. You can fly. It's
literally the same game.
Yeah, it's like it's like 5 years. They spent 5 years making this game, and they had all these ideas, but they could never make them.
Yeah.
Like they could never realize all their dreams. They had all these great ideas, and the core game was great, but they never finished it. It was one of those games that never finished and then shut down. But it had the anthems, it had dungeons like they do, which were special events that would open up that you could activate. It had all the resource gathering. You built your mechs, you maintained your mechs, you built all your weapons, you built all the subclasses to your javelins, like within it. It was like eerie how close they are.
Yeah, it sounds like it.
Similar time, but yeah, it was just like the never to be game had all the potential that just died off.
And it was like only like in like early access or something like that.
Yeah, never made it out of beta.
Wow, that's pretty crazy to see. Like it's like literally, like it sounds exactly the same.
Yeah.
And I've seen people like talk about it, you know, and it seems like something that's like very like dear to people. Like if they played it, they were like fully invested in it.
Yeah, because think of Anthem, but you were playing it in like an alpha stage. So you're in areas where some of the areas are completely fleshed out. You've got missions, and it had vehicles. It had you had jet bike kind of stuff, which was quite cool. A bit like Destiny stole from it, I think.
Yeah.
Jet bikes way before Destiny existed, and it had like crew vehicles and stuff they were adding. So when you went into dungeons, you had like 4-player vehicles that you could drive around the dungeon in, which was nuts. And it had all these outposts that you would go capture and fight off. And it had this, you know how Battle Royale has gas that is encroaching? That was basically the story, is that Earth got taken over by the Shadow, which sounds a lot like Destiny now that I think about it. And the Shadow kind of consumed Earth, and you're like the last bastion.
Yeah.
And the way that the story progressed is, as a community, or as a server, you built these pylons that push back the fog of war, and that was all the new content. So every time you push back the fog of war, the community physically builds it, places it, and that pushes back that region, and it reveals the next dungeon, and it reveals the next area, and all this kind of stuff.
That's like Sword Art. Sword Art's kind of like that, where it's like the entire community's got to get to the next level, and then we're all trying to get out of here.
Yeah, like the entire thing was a world event. Everything happening was a world event.
Yeah.
And they controlled the storms and all this stuff, and it's like, that sounds like...
Well, it's interesting to see that, like, anytime you talk about humans, in Anthem, or anytime they mention it, like they're very like leery to go any.
Specifically not Earth.
Yeah. Yes. But like, is it a world in a jar? You know, like, is it something like that? Like that's something that like I kind of get this feeling.
On a shelf. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah. Like, is it a snow globe on a shelf that they're like, and the Shapers are actual humans? They're like, basically the people of Anthem are, you know, exactly like you see God in like biblical terms, like creating beings in their image, you know. So like, I don't know. That's another spitball thing, but it makes sense when you think about it and see the way that they react every time you talk about humans.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, it reminds me about how the aliens in Mass Effect 1 talk about humans, where you're kind of looked down upon because you've just discovered flight. And that means you're now allowed to be in the Citadel because you've discovered how to actually travel with enough technology. It's almost like those people kind of were building something and it just disappeared.
But basically, like, we're monkeys to everybody else, you know.
Yeah, we have no idea what we're doing. We have no idea why we're here. It's like someone put us here, and we were part of something else.
Yeah.
But it wasn't not related to Earth. But I wouldn't be surprised if there's a connection, not necessarily to like a Mass Effect thing, but it opens up years down the line. And if we got an expansion that was a separate game, I think that would be like the major plot point would be the Shapers. And maybe we go to another world, and it's another thing, and we discover who the Shapers are, and that might be how that big leap takes.
It's funny that we don't even have the current world in our hands yet, and we're already thinking about the next ones. You know, like, I think it's just the way these types of games go. Is that you're always worried about the next thing. Like, all right, we know about the game. All right, well, let's get excited about the game. Okay, so now we know we're getting the game this particular time. All right, let's get excited for the time that we're going to get the game. All right, so now we know we're going to get that game. You know, it's pretty like solidified now. All right, let's start worrying about the next game. But it's not here yet. But we gotta worry about the next part of it. And
that's how a lot of I think RPGs in general function.
Yeah, we're conditioned that way now, regardless. It sucks.
Destiny was the same. It's like what's the darkness? Who's Callus and all this stuff? It's like mentioned in like.
Anthem Universe says want white base Hello Kitty decals, pink fluffy dice, pink paint flares. That's awesome.
If we don't get pink fluffy dice somewhere, I will be shocked.
If we don't, maybe just like on the side of them, like printed on the side. I'm all for that.
Even if it's in like your Strider.
Oh yeah, around the neck. Just gonna wear them.
What I want is, you know how in Warframe you have your ship.
Yeah.
I want the Strider
to
kind of be like that.
Yeah.
Not quite as advanced because we have other stuff to be doing. I want like the home base to be like the full Warframe base where you can walk around, you can interact with your things, but it should be a bit bigger where you've got your NPCs and everything. I want your Strider to be like a mini version of the ship.
But like, I mean,
partially you have.
It's funny you say that because they're constantly listening to what people are saying about the different games that are out right now in this particular vein. Something that they've drawn a lot of influence from was Monster Hunter, and Monster Hunter has all that stuff. You know, like you have your apartment, you can have fish, you can have a cat butler.
Yep.
I don't think we're getting a cat butler in Anthem, but I mean we can dream, right?
John that said that there will be some impression in Tarsus of what you've achieved. Whether that be story related, and when someone said so we can have like a home, he said there will be something along those lines. Yeah. I don't know if we're gonna have a home, but I think like
well, I'm pretty sure Mark said that. Mark said that you'd have an apartment of sorts.
Yeah. So I really want that to be where story decisions have that, but like when you do the raids and stuff, that's a really good way of doing achievements.
Yeah, like have the head of the person that you rated on a stake in your house. Yeah, that's what I want.
Like an artifact or a relic or whatever you've captured from these zones.
I mean, come on! They show the javelins hanging from multiple places. Why can't we hang them from the rafters of our apartment?
Fallout style.
Yeah.
you just got your armor hanging on your wall, just in case.
Oh man, I've seen people do some incredible things with the power armors. Like have full warehouses full of power armors just lined up. It's like I have to have them cataloged. So you don't know where they are, man. Like I'd get like really upset. It's bad enough I don't know where my guns are in the vault in Destiny. Like let alone having like 40 power armors, you know, in a warehouse. in a game.
With the because you know the flare, how that's a emote.
Uh-huh.
It's not a consumable or anything. It's just an emote. If they've got the technology to do that with an emote where it interacts with the world, I wonder what else they can do.
Mm.
Because that would be a really good way to do those like silly little things. Is if you could have an emote and you could literally just take out pink fluffy dice out of your javelin or something.
That is true. Flowers or something of the nature.
I wonder if you get different flares as well. Like if you literally could have a pink flare, or a blue flare, or a white flare, or a yellow flare.
We can, I think we have to ask Mark Dara some questions now.
Yeah.
I love you can capture creatures in MB and just add them to your home. Monster Hunter. All right, that's add them to your home. Personalized, the personalization is amazing because grinding for decorating isn't big thing for me. Well, that's all Warframe is. Like Warframe, like people call it fashion frame. Like you're constantly,
fashion everything.
Yep. Yeah. So you're spending time making your guy look the way you want it to.
What's the fashion version of Anthem gonna be? Something like, I don't know. The words don't fit as well.
No, it doesn't. It doesn't.
It's not like a two-part word.
Yeah. It's just Anthem.
Yeah.
I think they did that on purpose, so you can't manipulate it.
It would be like fashion jabs.
Yeah.
It always can't be something along those lines.
Well, I'm sure, or jab chic or something.
Oh yeah.
I like jab chic.
You can have the Anthem interior design.
Yeah. Give me the white racing stripe in my apartment. All right, guys. I think if we're quiet on questions for a little bit, we're gonna sign off here. Appreciate you guys hanging out tonight. If you guys want to check out Dantier, you can check him out on YouTube at youtube.com/Low Amount of Gaming, or you can watch him. Phantom. There you go. Phantom.
There we go.
You can check him out on Twitch now too at twitch.tv/IamDantier. Streaming some Overwatch competitive. God bless your soul.
Yeah.
Solos, right? I saw you playing solos the other day. I was like, oh my god, what are you doing?
I gained 300 points over 2 days and then lost 200 points in like a day.
Yeah, oh, that's the way it works, man. That's why I stopped. I was like, all right, I'm good. I've got some cool skins that I can play when I actually get on. Just like the competitive grind just doesn't get me sometimes, but
it's good when you're in like a team that's really like clicked.
Yep.
When you just click together, it feels real good. Even if you lose, it feels good.
Yep.
You feel like you're doing like you feel it's even.
Yeah, but solo queuing is brutal.
Yeah, it's either great or it's just the worst thing in the world.
Yeah.
It's just, no.
I hear you. All right, guys. Appreciate everyone hanging out. We'll be back next week, same time. So it's Monday the 30th, 9 p.m. Eastern time. Mixer.com/Lupo to the rescue. Appreciate every last one of you hanging out tonight, and we will talk to you all soon.